You're listening to the Trade Show Insights Podcast, Season 17, Episode 9. I'm your host and exhibit marketing strategist, Marlis Arnold, bringing you tools to improve your exhibit results. On today's episode, brought to you by the Exhibit Marketers Cafe, we've got a rebroadcast of our virtual lunch where we're focused on booth skills with a dash of Whose Line Is It Anyway? And Mary Poppins thrown in for good measure. Rebecca P. Murray calls herself an edutainer, communications coach, multimedia producer, MC, parody songwriter, singer, actor, author, and retired dog whisperer. Phew. Her production credits range from 30-second TV commercials to mini documentaries and live-streamed events. Her popular one-woman show incorporates characters, comedy, song, and, of course, a powerful take-home message. She also strongly upholds the Mary Poppins principles of learning, which requires just one thing: to find the fun in what must be done or make the job a game, as Miss Poppins would have put it. Today, Rebecca is going to help us find the fun in working a trade show booth through the use of some creative improv exercises. So, Rebecca, welcome to Virtual Lunch.
Thank you. It is great to be here. We have been talking about getting together for months.
Yeah, literally months. Yes. And it was hard to work into your schedule. So.
The day has arrived.
Yes. So thank you for being here. Well, you are no stranger to trade shows. I mean, you obviously, your bio talks about your theatrical and improv and those kinds of things, but you also have experience in trade shows. So tell us a little bit about how you know about trade shows.
Well, firstly, when you were talking about the show where you can go in and look at the clouds and those sorts of things, it reminded me of how I used to be a consumer. My husband and I used to annually go to the home show, which is down at a huge event center in Seattle, and spend the whole day wandering around and talking to folks at booths. And inevitably, we would end up buying things that we had no preconceived notion even existed before we walked in. And one of those things was we hired somebody that we met. You could walk into like a cabin and look at the ceiling, which was filled with stars and planets and things.
Oh, cool.
And so it would sort of glow in the dark. It actually looked like you were outside looking at a galaxy. So we hired this company to come and do that for our son's room and our room. I also still have things in the yard from the home and garden show. A steamer cleaner that was very, very expensive that I bought at a home show. Again, those are one of the things. I didn't go there to buy it. I ended up buying it primarily because the person selling it was so engaging, drawing me into the booth, showing me asking me the right questions, making me think about, wow, this could prevent the use of harmful chemicals in my house. I've never even thought about that. Make things so clean, no bacteria, just make my life easier. And so I invested, and that was years ago, $1,200 for that single thing.
Wow.
Yeah, yes. And then also it was at working trade show booths when I was the dog trainer. I worked for a company called Invisible Fence Brand. And every year, this was part of our marketing strategy at the beginning of the year, a 10-day home show where we would have a booth. Sometimes we would get the big corner booth or a double booth to allow for people to walk in. We'd show awesome pictures of beautiful pets behind us, which attracted the pet owners. And then the flower and garden show for other reasons, because many gardeners didn't want their pets ruining their gardens.
Oh, good point.
So we would talk about that. Yeah. So
well,
12 years.
And I like what you shared when you were talking about from the consumer side of being the one walking the trade show floor, and you said that the exhibitors were so engaging and they educated you. And I think that's so important because you call yourself an edutainer, and I think that's ultimately what we're doing on the trade show floor. We are educating people, but we also have to be entertaining and engaging at the same time. And I think a lot of exhibit staff, they get hung up on one side or the other. They're too busy entertaining and, just maybe, being silly, or they've got some kind of entertainment in the booth that's drawing people in, but they're not bothering to educate, or they're so hung up on the educating side that they're not making it very fun. So talking about the use of improv, well, first of all, I think, probably most everybody is a little bit familiar. I mean, I used to love to watch the show Whose Line Is It Anyway with Drew Carey and his cohorts. And, a lot of people have been to improv comedy clubs, but give us a little bit of the kind of the mechanics of improv and kind of the psychology of where we're coming from.
Yes, well, the main tenet of improv is the classic yes and, to listen to another person, to have a conversation,
Yeah.
to affirm what they say, eye contact, really listening, nodding your head, maybe throwing a little bit in, but keeping the conversation going and building. And so this is what we want to do on the trade show floor too, to ask questions, to listen, to affirm what we've heard, and to build, or in this particular case, I have one exercise that I'm sharing today, to transition the conversation toward a transaction, which is ultimately what we want to do on the trade show floor. Not necessarily, I mean, sometimes it's to sell something like I bought that cleaning unit for $1,200. Sometimes it is that kind of transaction, and that's awesome. But sometimes the transaction is simply getting somebody's name and email address, setting an appointment for either a further conversation or to meet with them at their home. Could be any number of things that you decide is the transaction that you're moving toward.
Well, and I think that's so important because you talk about the importance of listening and paying attention. And again, I think too many exhibit booth staff are stuck in I got to tell them this, I got to tell them that, gotta, and they're not listening to what the person is saying to them, and they need to be able to tailor that conversation in whatever direction. And so I think that's where the improv skills can come in. So give us a few tips about how do you prepare for this? How do you, because you never know what you're going to get. Thinking back to Whose Line Is It Anyway, you never knew which direction those skits were going to go. Well, you don't know which direction the conversation in the booth is going to go. So how do you as a booth staffer prepare for that?
Yes, well, the first thing is to have a great hook, to allow room for somebody to walk in. You see those booths where the tables are right in front, and so it blocks the entry for somebody to step in.
Yeah.
So that physical stepping in is really important. So what we would always do is have our table in the back, and we're drawing them in toward the table through a hook. And you and I haven't talked about hooks here, but I know in the audio session that we had, what do you call that? LinkedIn, what is that?
The LinkedIn audio live.
Yes, the LinkedIn audio live, we did talk about hooks, and we would try different things every year. How do we engage pet owners? How do we identify the pet owners who are walking by? And one of the things that we would do is we found a 911 sticker. This is for that you would put on your front window so that if there was a fire or some emergency at your home, first responders could see how many birds and cats and dogs might be in the home, because those animals tend to hide if something crazy happens. So we would use that as a hook and say, here's something for your pet. Here's something to keep your pet safe. And if somebody took it, and then we know, okay, they have a pet in the home. Oh, what kind of dog or cat? Oh, let me guess. And we would engage them and pull them into or back away so they could step in. And then from there, you're transitioning to then transaction by you asking questions. And I know you talk about the 80-20 rule in terms of conversation,
Right.
which I totally 100%, because it is easy, like you said, to blah blah blah. Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about that. And the person's like, okay, I need to go. I need to go. I need to go. They're backing away. You're pulling them, and it's this tug of war, that you could feel. Versus you keep asking
Exactly.
questions, they keep providing answers, and while you're listening, then in the improv exercise where we do this, we might make up a fake company with a fake product. I mean, something totally outrageous, and then we use attendees to be the person walking by, and the booth staff. Then meanwhile the audience who will come up next gets to watch and laugh. And so you participate in building this fake scenario, and then you can transition to the real deal scenario, your real company, your real product, but it gets everybody warmed up. And the three transition phrases that I like to use are, since you said blah, 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 I'm wondering if you might be interested in learning more about. I'm wondering if you'd like to provide your email address. So it's I'm wondering, I don't suppose, and I'm curious. Those are the three transition phases to transition toward that transaction. And in the exercise that I'm giving away today, there are two transitions. So one is to ask permission to ask more questions, and then you might have a something that has pre-printed questions so you can take note, and that helps you remember what a person says. And then the next transition, based on the answers that you're getting, is to permission to connect again. So either again that would and I give some specific examples, to add them to your email list, to put them in the drawing, to call them, to set an appointment with them. Our goal would always be to try to set appointments at the booth, but barring their inability, because maybe they need their spouse or their partner involved in this decision to make an appointment, to get their contact information at the very least, and permission, an agreement that you will follow up with them. And then you follow up with them within that next week or so. Otherwise, it's, who are you again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and for everyone who is listening to this, if you followed me for any length of time, you probably heard Rebecca just sharing a lot of the same things I've been teaching. I did not pay her to say this. So this is just validation that, yes, you really need to do these things. So, listen, take notes, ask them permission to follow up, and pay attention to how they want you to follow up, and then do it.
Yes, the do it. That's the hardest part we found, is you have this huge list after a trade show, and then there's another trade show on the horizon, and
you've
between
been on the show
appointments.
floor for 4 or 5 days, and so now you've got all this other stuff you've got to go back and do. I always say, I don't think that exhibitors just intentionally fail to follow up. I don't think they purposely say, oh, let's just collect all these names and do nothing with them. I think it's just that it falls through the cracks, and that's just so sad. But I think a lot of it is too, like you said, if they've done a really good job in the booth and they've had the conversations and they know how to follow up, because I think a lot of it is just kind of like, especially back in the days of, drop your business card in the fishbowl. Fish bowls are long gone. It's like, don't do that. If you just get a name and an email address and no other information, you have no idea how to follow up. So I think, having that more involved, engaged conversation is so, so important. And some of the other things about improv, because I did a little bit of research, not that I'm an improv expert, but some of the tips that I saw were like, speak confidently and be authentic. And I think some of those things are so important too, because in a trade show booth, a lot of times, and again, it is like being on stage essentially. And so I think it goes back to, that kind of, what am I going to say? I'm going to just fall back to be, saying a script basically. And it comes across as inauthentic. So do you have any tips for how people can kind of learn to go with the flow a little bit better and not be not have so much stage fright, I guess?
It is stage fright, isn't it? And I have gosh, I didn't think about sharing this, but I have a tip sheet. It's the oh, I'll have to share it later. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I will send this tip sheet to you. And in the same principles of before you speak in front of a group, before you go on stage as an actor, before you standing before a board of directors, to warm yourself up and calm yourself down. That's what I always say. Warm yourself up,
Mm.
calm yourself down. Now, one of these things does relate to pickles because
Oh,
being articulate and being able to speak so someone can understand you. A lot of people, trade shows are very, very loud. There's a lot of things going on, and many people have hearing difficulties,
hmm.
especially in that type of environment. Echoey, lots of voices, somebody on the speaker over there. So warming yourself up, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Saying these types of tongue twisters can also help you too, and have a little fun, not take yourself so seriously, and to be ready to engage with a smile. When you smile, someone else will smile at you. Like Mr. Rogers always said that. It's your style, where your smile is your style. So have some style and smile.
I like that. Well, and the other thing is too that, people can hear in your voice when you're smiling. I mean, it changes your whole tone of voice and everything.
Yes.
Everything is just much more warmer and more comfortable, I guess, when it's delivered in that kind of a way.
When you're smiling, the whole trade force smiles at you. How about that?
There we go. Well, on that, I want to share a couple of quick links. Rebecca's website is RebeccaPMurray.com. And if you reach out to her there, or if you contact her via LinkedIn, like she said, she's got this tip sheet she just mentioned. She's also got a tip sheet about the improv for sales and those phrases, those 3 phrases that she talked about a few minutes ago. So she's got those available for you. I also have another link from her website, which you just have to go check it out. It's RebeccaPMurray.com. And this is kind of long to say. So if you're listening on the podcast, go look in the show notes, but it's speak with hyphens, speak and shine / video skills training with hyphens between all the words. But if you go to the video skills training page on her website, basically, she's got a video there at the top of the page with a guest called Lenore. And you just have to watch this video. I mean, it just, this is all about, presenting yourself well online for the video skills training. So it's not necessarily talking about trade shows, but just if you want to get a little behind the scenes look to the creative mind of Rebecca Murray, that is the place to go. But I think that
Ah,
says so much, though, actually, because we do need to have some fun. Like you
mhm.
said, it's not all seriousness. And the more fun you can have, if you could do something a little bit silly in your booth, or again, it depends on your product. I mean, obviously,
Yes.
if you're selling some kind of life-saving medical device, it probably doesn't, it might not suit itself quite so much to being silly in the booth, but still there might be some way to to gamify it or something. But
Yes, yes.
but for the most part, like you said, you were working with people who had pets, so obviously having fun with that made so much sense. And I
Mhm.
think that that's really a key, is that we need to just loosen up, have some fun, and just go with the flow,
Yes.
because it's just especially now, people are ready to have fun, and they want, they're getting back out, they're going to trade shows again, and they want to just have an experience and some fun.
Right.
So
This can I just mention that the improv sheet. So it's RebeccaPMurray.com/improv for the number 4 sales. And this is a 2-page PDF that you can take back to your team, and it leads you through. You need a facilitator, but it allows you to take this improv exercise to your team and to get their creative minds going and to help them find ways and generate ideas to have fun and to use that transition to the transaction as the goal of this particular improv exercise. Improv for sales.
I think that's great. So again, it's RebeccaPMurray.com/improv, the number 4 sales. And I think that's so important, like you said, to do some role playing with your team, because if everybody is practicing together, you're probably going to come up with, and especially I encourage exhibitors, to role play overcoming objections this way too, because what the common objections are. And if you're role playing together as a team, you can come up with some much better responses than you can just if you're trying to think of it on the fly. So Rebecca, any final thoughts? Any last tips you want to leave with our participants today?
Yes, well, since we started with Mary Poppins, I think it's very important to end with Mary Poppins. Of course, the song that we're thinking of that she talks about fun is when she's helping the children put away their clothes in their messy bedroom and they start flying into drawers. And she says, "For every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. Find the fun and snap. The job's a game." So I know working in a trade show booth for hours and hours, I had a hard time sometimes thinking of it as fun and a game. But as soon as you change your mindset about it and find the fun, it's easier and more fun for everyone.
I love it. That's such great advice, because if you're having fun, it's going to be contagious for the attendees coming into your booth to have fun as well. Rebecca, thank you so much for being here as our guest today on Virtual Lunch. You've given us so many great tips and ideas, and be sure to follow up with her and get a hold of those tip sheets so you can use those with your staff as you're getting ready for your next trade show. You can find all the links mentioned during our interview in this episode's show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. And if you'd like to join us for an upcoming virtual lunch, you'll find info on that at exhibitmarketerscafe.com/lunch. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, you can subscribe to the podcast and automatically receive future episodes on your chosen device. Simply search for Trade Show Insights in Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or virtually anywhere else that podcasts are found, then click the subscribe button. Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues or embed it on your own blog, as long as it's shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the sidebar of the show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes and archives at tradeshowinsights.com. You can also connect with me using the social media links or the contact page on the site. I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join us next time for more tools to improve your exhibit results.